Everyone, on the 22nd of November 2024, I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, a Christian and the victim of this international government fraud. Welcome to part 4 of the research in relation to the Department of Work and Pensions. All I've done is screenshot my evidence and pasted it into a document for ease of reference, and you can use this as a template. You can go and verify and corroborate all of this information to see that it is true. So we are looking at, or we did look at the Institute for Orthodox Christian Studies, and it is linked to the international fraud and appears to have a forged incorporation document. Moving on, the same director that was linked to, Robert Marcus on the left, is also linked on the right. You can see to Praxis Group Limited. Well, that had already featured on my previous research. And on the left there, this is just showing a list of the documents that contain that. And it linked to the Nicola Bulley case, which is the poor lady that went missing along the river and was found 3 weeks later, massively linked into all of this fraud. And BP as well, you can see British Petroleum, the currency producer. And you can go and look at my Nicola Bulley document and you will see how this company links into that. And it does, as far as I can recall from my memory, it links into yacht companies and personal wealth. And of course, yachts are a way of transferring any laundered money into a tangible asset. On the right here, the same director is linked to PricewaterhouseCoopers. Well, that links to the World Trade Center disaster, all massively in the fraud. And if you go and look at my World Trade Center disaster document, you will see that. Back into the Lister Institute company, okay, the one we were looking at in part 1. Please go and look at part 1 if you haven't already seen it. It's a medicinal company, fraudulent company, and we now are looking at Kay Davies within that company. She links to Genome Research and Population Genetics Technologies Limited. Now, remember, with this system of fraud, if they remove many people, however they choose to do that, then it means that any pension funds that are unclaimed can be taken using this system of fraud with no accountability and liability, and they could take that money for themselves. And of course, if these people in charge of our world are criminals, which they certainly appear to be from this fraud, and they have any sort of addictions that they're trying to fund, then this is a very dangerous time for the people that they are managing. On the right there, we're looking at the Population Genetics Technologies Limited. And we're just going to go into them, and they are a fraudulent entity company. There's not lawful. You can see on the left there, the incorporation documents, Swift Incorporation there on the left, and on the right, Jordan's Limited. Now, those are exactly the same two companies that started my company, where this all started for me, or where I was a director for, shall we say. Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, exactly the same two companies we used to start that. And when I was a director, I acquired forged Lloyds Bank documents from there, refused to use them to file our accounts, carried out a huge independent investigation myself with various reports made to the authorities when clearly they were becoming involved with leaked information from our reports to prime suspects that are already named, confirming that there was fraud, but then refusing to confirm it, and then providing 2 emails confirming that they were allowing these forged bank documents to be used and to be produced by the banks and used in circulation. So anyway, when you look at the reason this is all criminal and fraudulent, if you go and look at Jordan's Limited on the right, which is on this incorporation document, you'll see that a company called Vistra Limited comes up. That means that it changed its name. If you look on the overview of that company, you'll see it has 3 names. So first of all, the most recent one is Vistra Limited, although I haven't looked at it for a couple of weeks, but it's probably the same. Jordan's Limited and Jordan's and Sons Limited. When you go into the incorporation document, which is found on the filing history, you'll see that actually on the incorporation document, it has a company name of Hammerplag Limited. Well, that's never been registered, so you can't find it when you search that on the register. So they've hidden it deliberately. They would have known exactly what they were doing, and therefore it should never have been trading because it's not been registered lawfully and legally, but it's been allowed to continue to trade and put everybody at risk who uses it. Completely criminal, completely fraudulent, and corruption by our government in that forgery. Reading up because they control the register. Back into the Lister company, we have Michael French, and they link to the Sherborne School Foundation, which is in Dorset, and has featured multiple times in the research of this fraud from various specific directions of research. And on the incorporation document, you can see you have Vil Vaspera. Well, that links to the international child trafficking document. You can see that, and that appears to be a German company. But with an original, all of the evidence suggests there's a pharaoh origin, ancient Egyptian origin, with the bloodline appearing to be linking through to the royal family. And it's all very sinister and evil. Surely it is, if you have all this child concerns that's coming on in relation to it, and this criminal system in place to victimize most. And remember, we talked about the royal family, and here's some connections, if you like, suggestions of royal connections. So on the left, back into the listed company, we already mentioned in part 3 that the Guinness family, okay, from Ireland, we all know about the Guinness drink, was involved in starting up. And here's Cecil Guinness, who resigned in June 2001, a month before the Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center building, just before, a few months before it collapsed in September. That director is connected to Queen Elizabeth's Training College for the Disabled. Okay, we go into that company, you'll see that it dissolved on the right hand side there. You can see it dissolved in 2023 as I'm exposing the fraud publicly, when I realised that most government organisations are involved, even though it was incorporated in 1943. So it's a very old company, and suddenly they're resigning as I'm exposing this massive corruption. Same director is linked to the Drinks Trust. I just thought this was interesting, bearing in mind that's a health company, if you like, to do with virology and health. And then here we have an alcoholic company linked to it, conflict of interest maybe. And the original name for it was the Wine and Spirit Trades Benevolent Society from 1993 to 2020. Within the listed company again, so all we're doing is go back into the listed company, looking at different director, moving through the directors in the people records. And you can see now they are linked to JP Morgan Global Emerging Markets. That's already featured in the fraud. Very significant companies, because the Fleming family linked to my company. In fact, one of them, as you heard from one of the previous parts, called the meeting to remove me as a director after I refused to file our accounts with the forged bank documents. They're linked to the intelligence agencies, to the police, to the NHS, to the Russian government, to Ukraine, and to UK politicians, and much more. International corruption on a vast scale and targeting humanity. On the right here we have an also NatWest link. NatWest, but all banks are involved in this, by the way. Every bank I've seen anyway has a fraudulent entity company. One of their companies here on the left, we also have a Royal RBS, so presumably that's Royal Bank of Scotland. And then in the list, we also have surname of Lloyd, a person with Lloyd, the Baroness, no doubt. Okay, Baroness, so linked to government, parliament. Lloyd, possibly a relative of Lloyd's Bank. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a minute there. So going here, we're now gone right back to John Guy Rhodes, who we looked at earlier. He was part of the Dragon Company. So we've now gone back. Okay, so you can see we're not far away from the DWP connection. And he is linked to Ingenious Broadcasting LLP. Well, that now makes a link to Hollywood, because Ingenious, if you go and research it, it's connected to Hollywood and movies, etc. And this company, or these companies, Ingenious companies, especially LLP, Ingenious Partners LLP and LLP2, I think it's called, linked right throughout the fraud. It's featured various times, links to Rishi Sunak, the evidence surrounding that, and various other documents that I've done. You'll see Ingenious there. So when we all know what's going on with Hollywood at the moment, especially the music industry with P. Diddy, etc., and it's hugely connected to this via my company, the Fleming family, linked to Ian Fleming. Well, Ian Fleming was the writer of the James Bond books, and obviously you have the James Bond movies, so there's the Hollywood connection via that. Anyway, here's Ingenious Broadcasting LLP on the right, and you can see that it is going into liquidation. Oh, sorry, active proposal to strike off on the bottom right here. Okay, active proposal to strike off. And they were incorporated in 2003. Okay, and now suddenly they are trying to close as this is all being exposed, you can see. And the original name was Ingenious Distribution LLP. And on its incorporation document, you had Millbank Film Partner 1 Limited and Partner 2 Limited. So we're going to have a look at that. So on the right here, all I've done is take that company name and searched it on the right in within Companies House Records. And here it is, Millbank Broadcasting Partner Limited. Millbank Broadcasting Partner 1 Limited comes up when you search it. Okay, so you get... So it's slightly different. Oh no, that's why I'm getting confused. It's because it was its previous company name. You can see there that's why I was getting confused here. So when you search it, it brings up this one because they previously registered Millbank Film Partners 1 Limited. So if we look into that company, Millbank Broadcasting Partner 1 Limited, you'll see at the bottom on the left, it had a previous name. You can see bottom left-hand corner there, Millbank Film Partners 1 Limited. So that's why it comes up. Well, that is linked to an address of 788 to 790 Finchley Road. That, according to the article from Ham and High in 2019, links to international government fraud, dictatorship, mafia, corrupt politicians defrauding the public through the taxation system. Go and type it in, Ham and High article, Finchley Road fraud. You'll see that article. That was as a result of a gentleman called Gordon Bowden, I believe, who's ex-military, who found out the connection to this address being used by over 260,000 companies, which was an empty shell of address to remove accountability and liability, because of course you can't serve any papers on a company if there's no one there to actually serve them to. So they're using an empty shell of address according to this research. And I've spoken to people that worked with him who suggest he was murdered. Okay, and I've seen a video of him handing all of the paperwork that he had in relation to that to the BBC, and he was murdered, according to the information I have. And of course, the BBC are implicated massively in relation to this. Also, just to show on the incorporation document you have, there you go, Temple Secretaries Limited of 788 to 790 Finchley Road. He also links, the same person links to Pegasus Management Holdings SCA. Pegasus is a very important company. If you go and research it, you can have a little look. You'll see that it is linked to the Israeli intelligence services. And they have, according to that, the facility to spy on people's mobile communication devices, etc. I believe this is all a massive conspiracy to target millions, and actually it's all a conspiracy and deception against the masses. They've seen a way to try and exploit and victimize humanity to suit the needs of a very small group of people and their nefarious, sinister addictions and lifestyles. And here we are, we have a Pegasus Management, and you can see they were closed. And going into Ormiston, so back into Ormiston, which was a company we were looking at earlier, so it's not far back. Brian Collette we were looking at, and Brian Collette is linked to White Link Nominees Limited, and I immediately recognise that because that is linked to the Isle of Wight, which is very significant. You remember I said Bob Seeley, remember, set up the informal parliamentary island group. He's the MP for Hampshire and Isle of Wight. Okay, that links to Ghislaine Maxwell very quickly. He was the Minister for Russia. Okay, remember you had the poisoning in Salisbury. I suspect that is all linked to this. Many high-profile deaths, or what we're led to believe are deaths, are linked to this international government fraud. It's worth trillions of pounds and exploits the world in a vast way and is the root cause of most of the world's problems, without a shadow of a doubt. On the left there, John Burrows links to, I've just put because he's got a Portsmouth, Hampshire address. Remember, one of the people within the Fleming family who called to have me removed was an NHS chief executive in charge of a £700 million budget and 10,000 staff for the area of Hampshire, Isle of Wight. So that includes Portsmouth. Here we have White Link Ferries and Ports linked to them. We also have White Link Group on the left. Here's Whitelink Group on the right going into it. And it's a fraudulent entity company, Swift Incorporations. And further down, you'll see Jordans and Sons, because the illegality continues through the documents. Okay, you can't have part of a document that is lawful and part of it unlawful, because all of it becomes unlawful, okay, and criminal. On the right here, also Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce. That person links to, and here's Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce, started in 1973, 2 years after the World Economic Forum started. I don't believe that is a coincidence. And on the incorporation document for it, you have Jordans and Sons Limited. So that is a fraudulent, illegal entity company. So that Jordans and Sons, which is now Vistra, started in 1965, which was obviously 6 years before the World Economic Forum started. I think that was probably a big trigger for all of this when they started that company, because Jordans and Sons features so much, and Jordans features so much throughout all of this. And here we are on the right, the same director links to Arca Shipping Limited. Shipping, hopefully I don't need to spell it out why shipping companies are so important. Cargo, okay, freight, containers. What do you think they may put in those? What did we see recently? You may not be. Are you aware of the P. Diddy situation right next to the island? There's a shipping container depot. So anyway, here's Arca Shipping Limited. On the left, you can see they have an address in Portsmouth, according to this. On the incorporation document, my eyes are terrible. Again, it's fraudulent, Swift Incorporations and Jordans. On the right here, you then have the same director is linked to Whitelink Guernsey. Okay, Guernsey is an offshore island, tax haven, also ability to launder criminally obtained money through to it. And here's Whitelink Guernsey on the left, and they were closed it on the 6th of July 2022 as I'm exposing the fraud, making inquiries within my company. Okay, don't forget Whitelinks is the company that uses the ferry it goes across to the Isle of Wight, which is very relevant to what we're talking about here. On the right here, you can see this person is linked to that company, Stephen Lowry. Again, 1972 date of birth, a year after the World Economic Forum started. On the left here they are, 49 companies, one of them being on the right, Iris companies. Why is Iris important? Well, Iris is important because Mayor Toosey used to work for Iris. I tried contacting Mayor Toosey and Tommy Robinson to get them to assist me in exposing this, bearing in mind they're talking about police and government corruption. Here I am, a former UK police constable with overwhelming evidence of police and government corruption, and they will not publicly speak to me about it together. And I've asked that of Mayor and Tommy Robinson. They've completely ignored that. Tommy Robinson has my mobile. I've had the message from his team confirming he's got my mobile. I did publicise it actually, but I need to do it again. And I've had no contact whatsoever. And I think we're seeing why. Tommy has a previous name that is linked to D&D Law Agency that we've already mentioned in this. Now, this is incredibly important because by chance, and if you don't believe this is divine intervention, I was searching Whitelink, trying to find the company again. So I searched Whitelink Group here within Companies House, and look what it brought up. Not only Whitelink Group Limited, but White Hat Links Limited. Why is that important? Because many of you who are following the Trump situation believe that he is a saviour going to come in under the banner of the White Hats to remove all child traffickers and make the world safe again. Here we are. We have a link to White Hat Company. And here is we're just searching White Hats now on the left within Companies House. And it brings up a White Hats Limited company in Hampshire. Okay, we've already said why Hampshire is so important. And here is that White Hats Limited company address in Hampshire. And we're going to do another video about that, because that is going to be very important, because that will link back into everything I've been talking about, I'm almost certain. So please watch that video. But that's we'll do that separately. Okay, so back into that same director that we were looking at, links to BBDO Italy. Now that's very important, and we're going to come into it in a minute, because we now have links to the Hampstead child abuse inquiry. Okay, the research regarding Ricky Dearman are now linking to these exact same companies that you're seeing here. Okay, that ties in with that director. Palfley Limited links to the research, because that is the judge that was used to supposedly prosecute Sabine McNeil and the mother of the 2 children. Okay, a huge deception and cover up, it appears, from the evidence that I've got. Ricky Dearman links right back into this system of fraud and back in to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, and Adelphi International on the right there is also Adelphi Companies link also into that. So you can go and look at the Ricky Dearman, or Hampstead, I think it's called Hampstead Child Abuse videos. I can send you the playlist of my videos to your email. My email, again, I'll say for you, is GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. That's Gary with 1 R, TheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. Or you can email me on GaryTimeForFreedom at proton.me. GaryTimeForFreedom@proton.me. Or you can go on my Telegram channel. It's heavily infiltrated and actually owned by Jordans as well, which is linked to Vistra. That's Gary The Truth Sets Us Free. So this director now, BBDO Italy. Okay, we just mentioned that company. Remember, Italy is important, I believe, because what we're going to find, and I am finding, is there's potential links to the Vatican. There's already links to this fraud to the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was recently connected to a scandal of covering up potential child paedophilia with John Smythe. Well, John Smythe links to the fraud, same companies, Freemason companies, Waterloos, etc., and so does the Archbishop of Canterbury. But anyway, getting back to this, we have an interesting company now linked to this director called Weapon 7 Limited. Weapon 7, number 7. Here's Weapon 7 Limited. Look when it was incorporated, 3rd of September 2001. When's that? 8 days. 8 days prior to you know what. And it's called Weapon number 7. On the incorporation document, we have, which is one I hadn't seen before in my research, All Tax Nominees Limited. So a tax connection. Tax connection. It's a Weapon 7. In September 2001. Building number 7, World Trade Center, was an office building constructed as part of the original World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan, New York City. The tower was located on a city block bounded by the West Broadway, Vesey Street, Washington Street, and Barclay Street on the east, southwest, and north, respectively. It was developed by Larry Silverstein, who held the ground lease for the site of the Port Authority of New York. It was destroyed during the September the 11th attacks. On September the 11th, 2001, the structure was substantially damaged by debris when the nearby North Tower World Trade Center collapsed. The debris ignited fires on multiple lower floors of the building, which continued to burn uncontrolled through the afternoon. The building's internal fire suppression system lacked water pressure to fight the fires. It began to collapse when a critical internal column buckled and triggered cascading failure of nearby columns throughout, which were first visible from the exterior with the crumbling of a rooftop penthouse structure. There's a lot of controversy around that. I'm going to do a second video that suggests that building was rigged to be taken down prior to the World Trade Center disaster. And I think with this, I mean, you can draw your own conclusions from what I'm showing you here, but we'll move on. So, Weapon 7 going into that company, Alexandra Johnson. Links to Universal Pictures UK Limited. Again, a link to Hollywood. On the right, they also link to the Fraternity. Fraternity is another word, I believe, for like a secret society. So let's look at within the Fraternity. You have Andrew Blankfield, links to Field Fisher Worldwide on the right. I've seen that company numerous times in the fraud. Field Fisher, here it is, Field Fisher Worldwide. On the incorporation document for it, 7-side. That features throughout the fraud and links to David Cameron and to Tony Blair, I believe. That same director links to a company called Young People's Puppet Theatre. Also on the right, the International Organ Festival Society Limited. Let's look at that company, the International Organ Festival Society Limited. It was started in 1991, 10 years before the World Trade Center disaster. It says, the bottom, nature of business, performing arts, support activities to performing arts. Okay? It's a fraudulent entity company, first of all, so it's illegal. Swift Incorporations and Jordans and Sons. Within that company, we have Richard Broadbent. On the left, links to Tesco PLC. I just thought I'd throw that in there as in. And by the way, if you go into that, you'll see it's fraudulent. The incorporation document deliberately doesn't match. They forged the register against the incorporation document. So Tesco's is a fraudulent entity company. And we know how many Tesco's are in the UK. You also have a bank connection now. So remember, organ, trying to look like arts activities. On the left here, you've got Barclays Bank PLC. The address features throughout the fraud there of 1 Churchill Place, but they use various numbers within Churchill Place. Look when it was started in 1971, same year as the World Economic Forum. There's also another Barclays company, Barclays PLC, slightly different wording. Here's Barclays PLC, started in 1896. So an very old company compared to that. Here it is, 1896. According to the record, the original name for the company from 1896 to 1985 was Barclays Bank PLC. Well, that's a lie. That's a crime. That's a fraudulent company. On the incorporation document, it says Barclay and Company Limited. That's different. That's fraudulent. They would have had that document and they falsified the register against the document to create a legal, fraudulent entity company. Don't forget, this is a bank, one of the world's biggest, and they would have known exactly what they were doing. On the left here, you have Jeffrey Kavenka, links to a school, and he links to, where are we? And Jeffrey also links to HSBC. Now remember, we've come in from this organ company, supposedly to do with musical organs or arts, but we'll see what we really think that is. On the left there, HSBC Global Asset Management UK Limited, and you can see one of their company names when they changed it. You can see all the different name changes here. There was a specific change from 1999 2005, it was called HSBC Asset Management Europe Limited. On the incorporation document is a name that features throughout the fraud, Mavis June Latter. You'll see that all the way through my research, but also Jordans and Sons on it. So again, a criminal organisation. See how we've been deceived, everybody. Back into the International Organ Company on the left. On the right, sorry, you've got Edward Hackford. He's linked to the Society of Local Authority Chief Executives and Senior Managers. This is very important. Okay, chief executives, heads of organisations, linked now. On the right, we're looking at that company, Society, and it's changed its name. The last time it changed its name was in August 2001, a month before the World Trade Center disaster, when it was called Solace International 1992 Limited. Changed its name, but never again since, even though it's still active. And it's a fraudulent entity company, Swift Incorporations and Jordans Limited. And just to say, go and look at this. Go and type in Jordans and Sons Limited. You'll see that it comes up with Vistra Limited. Go and check out the incorporation document. It's actually got Hammerplag Limited on it. You'll see that has never actually been registered against that record. So it's fraudulent and criminal. And the illegality continues through the documents. Come back, please watch part 5. God bless you all. Bye.